Hello everyone and welcome back to another Marvel Crisis Protocol Battle Report for the channel. In today's 18 threat match, the Brotherhood of Mutants are going up against the Winter Guard on the table you can see before you. So without further ado, let's go look at the teams. So here is our 18 threat of Brotherhood of Mutants, featuring two new additions to the channel, at least the Blob and Pyro over here on the right, joined by Magneto, who's leading them, and Toad, and then also Sabretooth as well. And their tactics cards, if we just look down here a little bit: Magnetic Crush, Brace for Impact, Leapfrog, Pyrotechnics, and Asteroid M. And there's also 5 models in the Winter Guard. Colossus is being the guest this time across the usual lineup of Crimson Dynamo, Ursa Major, Red Guardian, and Dark Star there. And their tactics cards over here: Fusion Caster, Sovereign Strike, Winter Rush, Dark Aura, Manifestation, and Comrade Keeper. And here is the two Crisis cards being played: Extraction and Secure, both 18 threat, so pick whichever you want. Montesi formula: it's the 3 books, 1 VP for each book you hold, and if you hold a book you get access to a Beam 3 6 dice Mystic Attack. Mutant Madman turns city into lethal amusement park. There is 4 trap tokens on the map. You score 1 VP for each trap you're controlling in the cleanup phase. You interact with it, roll dice equal to your physical defense, get more hits, crits and wows than there are healthy enemy characters to control it. Then also during the cleanup phase, if you control it, you can pick an enemy character within 2 to take 1 damage and get 1 power. So if we just look here, the books are up the middle of the table there, and the traps are 1, 2, 3, and 4 right there. So we'll get everyone set up and be back at deployment. And so we're back with both sides deployed. The Brotherhood of Mutants will be taking first activation in Battle Round 1, and they're on your left. The Winter Guard are on your right. And we'll just take a quick look at where they've set up specifically. Dark Star down here with Ursa Major, Red Guardian, Crimson Dynamo, Colossus up there. On this end of things, we have Pyro, the Blob, and Toad kind of all together here. Magneto here with his first metal construct set up within 3 of him right there. And then Sabretooth kind of on his own on this flank down there. So with that, we will jump into Battle Round 1 and see how this plays out. So Toad got the game started to take advantage of his ability to interact with objective tokens from range 2 instead of base to base. He moved twice, though he still had to use both actions for a move, but he kept as far away as possible from the middle book and paid his 1 power he started with to pick it up, just to give them an early advantage and to keep him close enough to his friends that he hopefully will stay standing. Crimson Dynamo got the game started for the Winter Guard, moving up small to the far side of the book closest to their side of the table. He paid his 1 power to pick it up. Wanted to attack Toad, but yep, he is safe from his range 4 attack, as you can see there. So instead he overloaded his capacitors, which is an action, in order to give himself 2 power, so he'll have more to play with next turn. The Blob activated his first game on the table. He moves small, but he is on that larger base. He did a move and a half just to move himself up a little bit more. He paid 1 power to interact with the trap token here and did convert it to the Brotherhood of Mutants. The Magneto helmet symbol is going to be used for that. Among other things he can do, he can't be pushed or thrown by enemy effects because the Blob does not move unless he wants to. Colossus was next up for the Winter Guard, moving up to position himself on this trap token. Paid his 1 power to convert it with his 4 physical defense. That's also how much physical defense the Blob has, by the way, forgot to mention that. And he did indeed convert it. Now there's no Winter Guard tokens, so the blue Asgardian hammers are just going to be their token for the purposes of this time around. The man himself, Magneto, activated for the Brotherhood next. He's not flinging things around this turn, at least. He moved once to be positioned within range 1 of the book that was still down here, paid 1 power to pick it up. Moved small again to get within 1 of this trap token, and paid 1 power to interact with it. He converted it on his 3 physical defense. He had 1 extra power because of the metal construct in the power phase, so now he's just chilling over there. The Red Guardian activated, moved twice down to this trap token here, paid 1 power to interact with it, and did not manage to convert it. Ironically, he rolled 3 shields on his 3 physical defense. He needed to get a hit, crit or a wild, so it's staying neutral for now. Second last activation of the turn for the Brotherhood was Pyro. We're not going to get to see any of his burning related shenanigans just yet. He actually only used 1 action to move up to where you can see him. He's a medium move. There isn't anything else he can really do, so he's just holding off there for a push next turn. And second last activation for the Winter Guard. Ursa Major activated, and he had to do what Red Guardian couldn't. Moved up twice, just moving small. Paid his 1 power. He's also only 3 defense dice, and he only got 1 success, so ironically he barely made it. Last activation in Battle Round 1 for the Brotherhood was Sabretooth. He moves long and he took advantage of that to be sneaky. He ran up the edge of the table with 2 moves and paid 1 power on 3 dice needed to get 2 total successes of hit, crits or wild, and he got it, converting that trap token to the Brotherhood. With only Darkstar left to activate for the Winter Guard, she can't get over there to change it back. Well, Darkstar decided to be very brazen and moved up medium twice, not enough to even attempt to convert this trap token over here, but definitely bearing down on Blob and Pyro, hopefully forcing one of them to try and activate first next turn to deal with her rather than doing something on the other end of the table. So that takes us to scoring, and also the trap tokens themselves will be lashing out. So at the end of battle round 1, the trap token at the top right there will be dealing 1 damage and giving 1 power to Colossus, and the one down here will be doing the same to Darkstar. Points wise, the Winter Guard hold only 1 of the points thanks to Sabretooth for 1 victory point, and they hold 1 book on Crimson Dynamo, so they gain 2 in total. For the Brotherhood though, they've got the other 2 books on Magneto and Toad, and they have 3 of the trap tokens, so they gained a total of 5 victory points and are retaining first activation in battle round 2. In the power phase for battle round 2, Magneto set up his other metal construct, and it is right there where you can see it. So Pyro got the round started proper, and he ended up not moving at all. He did a fuel jet, or flame jet it's called, beam 3, which means it caught Darkstar and Ursa Major. It's only 4 dice energy, but on a wild it gets Incinerate. I did 2 damage through to Darkstar, but no... we moved the tile. No wild. Ursa Major only took 1 damage, but did get incinerated from that. And with the power he generated from that, it just generates 1 flat power per person hit. He spent 3 on his big spender called Inferno. It's only range 2, but Darkstar was within range 2. 7 dice energy with a guaranteed Incinerate, but the Incinerate's not going to matter. She spent 3 on Dark Energy Barrier, I think it's called. It adds 2 dice to her defense. So she was rolling 5 defense against 7 attack, and still managed to end up taking 4. There was 3 skulls in her defense roll. So she is very much dazed already. Apologies, I forgot to explain where the other point of damage on Ursa Major came from. When Pyro uses Inferno, before damage is dealt, any other enemy characters within 2 of his intended target are burned for 1 damage. So he is within 2 of Darkstar, so that's where that came from. Crimson Dynamo activated for the Winter Guard first, spending 2 power on propulsion thrusters to push himself forwards 2, getting him within easy threat radius of Toad there. Used his Electric Blast, it's a beam for 5 dice energy, shock on a wild, got Toad for 2 damage and the shock, at which point Toad spent 2 or 3 on Leapfrog, or no, Slippery, which means he is retreating over there out of range of any other further attacking. So for the other action for Crimson Dynamo, he is once again overcharging his capacitors to gain 2 power. Lots of choices to make about who could possibly activate next. Eventually the Blob was the one picked. He moved forwards ever so slightly, still wants to kind of block that objective there. It did put him within range 2 of Ursa Major, though he did his basic strike, 5 dice physical, and if the target is size 3 or less, it's got a push small. And he did it on Ursa Major, and he fully blocked the damage, but the push still goes through on a wild. The Winter Guard affiliation bonus kicked in twice. One, he can shake that Incinerate, which he did, I was just there to show. And the other was he can try and resist being pushed if he's securing a secure objective. Got to roll a shield, crit or a wild on 1 die, and he didn't. So the big bear got shoved backwards small. The Red Guardian activated, moved up medium, and then chucked his shield at Toad, hoping to try and get something on him. And not only did he not get the ricochet, which he could have used to hit into Pyro or Blob, Toad blocked the 1 damage that was trying to get through. So Red Guardian is not having a good game so far, and that might be very costly for the Winter Guard. Well, Toad activated and tried to take advantage of Red Guardian's weakness, staying where he was within range 3 to do a tongue lash. It's only 4 dice physical, that still managed to do 1 damage to Red Guardian, at which point Toad and the Blob each spent 1 to do Leapfrog. After an allied Toad deals damage, and that's the hard part to make this proc, with an attack, an allied Blob and Toad can spend 1 each. The Blob can advance small and then make a strike action. So he didn't bother moving because he didn't want to. And he did a strike into Red Guardian for 2 damage. Toad then tried to finish him off by doing another tongue lash, but he finally was able to roll a decent defense roll and took no damage from that. Ursa Major activated, moved up small, and eventually did a strike into the Blob, which was fully blocked. But prior to that, he spent 3 on Sovereign Strike right here. Any Winter Guard can spend 3 to play this. Choose an interactive terrain feature size 4 or less within 4. All characters, friend or foe, within range 1 of the terrain feature suffer 2 damage because it explodes. He picked the construction truck that was here. It was within range 1 of Pyro and Toad, so they have both taken 2 damage each. So that puts Toad 1 away from getting dazed and dropping that book. Sadly, there's no one left over here, thanks to Darkstar being dazed, to take advantage of that this turn, but it does soften him up for next turn. Magneto activated and just moved up ever so slightly, still within 1 of the closest trap token to him, but he was also close enough he could use Fatal Attraction to spend 2 to pick up the size 2 police car, chuck it long right into Colossus's face. It dealt 2 damage, reduced down to 1 because of his organic metal skin. Magneto was doing nothing else with his turn, but with the destruction of that car, his affiliation bonus kicks in. He gave 1 power to Blob and Sabretooth off of the back of that. So Colossus activated as the final activation of Battle Round 2 for the Winter Guard, thanks to Darkstar being down. He spent 3, which is all he had, on his big X-Slam on Sabretooth, and it spiked hard. I think it was the full 6 successes that got through, and he blocked none of it. But even when they're suddenly doing a lot better, it still works out worse for the Winter Guard. Because it fully took Sabretooth out, he didn't generate any power off the back of that, because that was his spender. He didn't have anyone to smack to then generate a little bit of power to try and convert that trap token there. So Colossus is just sitting. He doesn't want to move closer to Magneto to let Magneto batter him twice next turn. He is just going to sit there and hopefully withstand Sabretooth next turn, hit him back again, and then convert it. That's really his only option. And he's going to take 1 damage at the end of the turn as well, because he can't convert the trap token. Actually, with hindsight, he is going to use his second action to deliberately move out of range 2 of the trap token. He will have to move back in next turn. It saves him that 1 damage, it keeps him even further from Magneto and Magneto's constructs. It's probably the best bet to keep him on his feet longer, so yeah, he is actually using his other action to move back there. So we're actually already at the end of Battle Round 2, thanks to Sabretooth already being denied an activation. It never works out well for him on this table. There is no one being hit by any of the traps, because Colossus moved out of the way, and down here, that might just be within range 2. I don't think it is, but I will double check in a second. Points wise, the Brotherhood are running away with it. They still have 2 of the books, they still have 3 of the trap tokens, so they gained another 5, taking them to a flat 10. The Winter Guard have the same 2 as before. They've got the book on Crimson Dynamo, and they held on to this back point here. The Brotherhood didn't even really try and take them, they were just focused on damage that turn. So 10 plays 4 going into round 3 with the Brotherhood still going first. Well, things go from bad to worse for the Winter Guard as Battle Round 3 starts with the Blob activating and punching the Red Guardian with a basic strike, which managed to spike for 5 damage. He only needed 2. So a Red Guardian was dazed, and then I gave him enough power from that 2 power he got from that attack to spend 3 or 4 on Thunderous Splash. You place him within 1 of the target. The target was Darkstar, so he bounced over here, came crashing down, 7 dice physical, and does explosive force on a wild, which he got but hasn't been done yet, just to show what's happening. So he came splashing down. She spent 3 on Dark Force Barrier and still managed to take 3 damage from the blow, so broke even in terms of power spent and power gained there. And because he got the wild, after it's resolved, other characters, so it would include friendlies as well, within range 2 of him, are pushed away small and then receive 1 damage. So she's going to take 1 more damage, and Ursa Major is going to get knocked back as well. And that is how they ended up after the relative pushes. That's a very cool attack and very thematic. He just comes flopping down and the shockwave sends people flying. So, not looking good for the Winter Guard. Well, Darkstar, having not had much of a game so far, has had enough of the Brotherhood you-know-what and decided to strike back. She spent 3 on Rending Force, 7 dice physical or energy, I think she can pick, on range 2 target, and she can also do bleed on wilds, but that doesn't matter here. Did the first one on Toad. It whiffed. Oh, well, it didn't whiff, but it nearly whiffed. It only did 1 damage. Luckily, he was only 1 away from death, or daze rather. So he did daze. Rather than spending a power to pick up the book that Toad was holding, it has just been placed there. And the reason for that is she had exactly 3 power left, which she used to do another Rending Force into Pyro because she wanted to hurt them real bad, and she did. That's the remnants of the roll over there after taking away 1 for the 1 success Pyro had in his defense roll. He took 7 damage, and I think he needed 3 to go down on his healthy side because he has 5 in total. So he is also dazed. So there's actually no one over there now who will pick up the book, which means Ursa Major can hopefully go and pick it up and convert that trap token. And this might be the start of a little bit of a comeback for the Winter Guard. We shall certainly see. Well, thanks to that activation, it meant that the Brotherhood could actually pass, because they've got 2 activations left to the Winter Guard's 3, so they did pass. So Ursa Major activated and did what we basically just discussed. So moved in, spent 1 power, pick up the book the Toad dropped, spent another power to try and convert the trap token, and did succeed. So they finally have control of this side of the table, sort of, given the Red Guardian's also dazed. There's going to be a lot of flipped cards over here next turn. Sabretooth moved up ever so slightly, so he was within range 2 of Colossus. He spent on his big attack Savage Predator 7 dice physical, and if you get a wild and a hit, you can then do a basic Claw Rush 5 dice physical on him with Pierce and Bleed on wilds. And he did 4 damage with the Savage Predator, down to 3, which actually kept Colossus on his feet. But the free claw attack he was allowed to do did the 1 damage, wasn't even 2 damage down to 1, it was just 1. And that was enough that Colossus is dazed. So that side of the map is safe for the Brotherhood for this turn. And it's over to... who's left to go for the Winter Guard? Crimson Dynamo. Not sure what he's going to get up to. Well, in an effort to grab back points, Crimson Dynamo activated Move Small twice, which got him just within range 1 of the trap token here. He paid 1 power, he had to beat 1 success, or he had to get 2 in total, because of Sabretooth is what I mean. And he did, so he has converted it to the Winter Guard. Magneto's still got to go though, so he's probably just going to go over there and try and do it. We'll see if he succeeds. Well, Magneto walked up and just dumpstered Crimson Dynamo, used reverse polarity, getting full rerolls because he's within 3 or within 2. Either way, he managed to do 6 damage to him. He went from fully healthy to dead in 1 strike. He was also just going to throw the Metal Construct at him, or the Street Sweeper there if he needed to. Anything, he had a couple of different options he had enough power to play with, because he's not really done anything. So yeah, Crimson Dynamo dropped his book that he was holding. Magneto can't pick it up though, because he's holding one, so it's just going to sit there, meaning nobody scores any points for that, but he denied them. Oh, he did also pay 1 and put the trap back to the Brotherhood's side. So at the end of battle round 3, the Winter Guard are finally taking first activation as we go into round 4. Lots of people flipping their cards this round. Colossus, Toad, Pyro, Red Guardian, and Crimson Dynamo. I think that they're all flipping their cards. Score-wise, the Brotherhood have 1 book for 1 victory point and 2 of the trap tokens for another 2, so they gain a total of 3, taking them up to 13. The Winter Guard have 1 book and they have 2 trap tokens as well, so they gain 3 too, and that took them up to 7. So 13 plays 7. The Brotherhood can Fandango 3 victory points this turn. They're winning in round 4. There is still things to play for though. The Winter Guard can come back from this. They've got a lot of power to play with on a few characters. They can do some damage, assuming dice rolls are a bit more kind to them. And there is 1 book sitting on the floor. Nobody getting damaged by the trap tokens, because everyone within 2 that's on the opposite side is dazed. So with that, we're going into round 4. So as much as it would have been a fun thing to activate a Winter Guard down here at the top of battle round 4 just to start smacking people, because there's so many targets to choose from in such close range, if the Winter Guard lose on the other end of the table, it's over anyway. So Crimson Dynamo activated because he had to stop Sabretooth picking up that book. He moved, paid 1 power to pick up the book, and then he spent his last 3 power on Fusion Caster. He was attempting to go all out. So you get a beam 3, which means it hit Sabretooth and Magneto. 7 dice energy, you roll 2 extra dice for crits instead of 1, but for every crit in the roll you take damage. And he did that, and across both 7 dice rolls against each of them, he didn't roll a single crit. Not a 1. So 1 damage, all said and done, to Sabretooth, and 3 to Magneto. Not that great, all said and done. He did pick up the book at the very least, so they're going to have to go through him, but he had nothing left to even try and convert the trap there. Well, in an effort to secure the game, Magneto activated, moved up to where you can see him, and then spent on Magnetic Crush, which he's going to spend 5 on, but I think he was sitting on 9 power. Spends 5, gets access to this range 4 6 dice, although you break any range size 3 or less within 2, which was the Street Sweeper and the... oh, what else was sitting there? Something else was sitting... oh, one of his constructs. So that threw in some extra dice, also gave out some power to his team. He did that into Colossus, a lot of dice. Colossus came up trumps with his defense roll, though it had 3 crits in it. He ended up only taking 1 damage, all said and done. So Magneto then spent 2 to pick up the silver car that had been behind him, chucked that at the back of his head, and Colossus fully dodged it. So with Colossus being sturdy like that, he may have kept them in the game. Well, Colossus activated with a simple goal, remove Sabretooth as a problem. He spent on X-Slam, and with the same move again, he took Sabretooth from max to 0, doing 6 damage removing Sabretooth from the board. He then moved as his other action to get close enough to spend one to try and interact with the trap token, and succeeded. Now that's important because that means now, thanks to Magneto still having a book and that trap token being the Brotherhoods, they're on track to earn just 2 at present, which would only take them to 15. So right now, there would be a turn 5 unless Toad, Pyro or Blob can get another victory point from somewhere and hold on to the end of the round. Well, things on the other end of the table have resolved for potentially the game entirely. Over here though, we've still got things to do. Toad activated and immediately spat acid into Darkstar's eyes, doing 4 damage and removing her from the table. He then repositioned. He didn't really need to because he was within range 2. He paid 1 to interact with the trap token and did convert it. So, as of things right now, they'll get to 16, but Red Guardian and Ursa Major can still activate. Of course, so can Pyro and Blob. So it might just be give and take here, constantly trying to retake an objective. We'll see. Ursa Major activated and spent 1 to convert the trap token back to the Winter Guard. He succeeded. Then he attacked Toad because Toad's already activated. He was seeing if he could build enough power to do his big attack onto Blob to put a stagger on him, or Pyro for that matter, with a throw. He only did 1 damage to Toad, so he only generated 1 power off of that, and he had nothing left after he converted the trap token. So he opted just not to use his other action because he doesn't want to feed Pyro or Blob any power to make them be able to do nasty stuff. He is the only healthy character for the Winter Guard over there. Blob is the only healthy character for the Brotherhood. So if Blob decides to go after that token, it isn't likely Pyro is going to be able to convert this one on 3 dice. It's absolutely possible, but it's not super likely. Well, it feels like Pyro just secured the game. He spent on Inferno again, did it on Ursa Major, and set the bear alight 4 damage, which is enough that he is dazed. He dropped his book, paid 1 to pick that up, paid 1 to convert the trap token, and then for his other action, he ran away. He ran away medium, so that Red Guardian would have to chase him for at least 1 action, so he can't just try and pile on him to get a book off of him. So that means they're now poised to score 4, with Red Guardian just left to go, and then Blob. Blob can go to either trap token. So there isn't anything Red Guardian can really do. He can chase Pyro, knock him out, pick up the book. I guess we'll take a look, but it seems like that it has been enough with Ursa Major going down to the Inferno, or the Incinerate, whatever. It's called Inferno, but it does incinerate. That's what it's called. But with him going down to that, I think that is probably game there. Red Guardian went for the Hail Maryest of Hail Mary plays. He couldn't get in range 2 of Pyro to do his big attack and still be within range 1 of the trap there to convert it. So he moved, paid 1, converted it, and then from where he was, he just did a shield throw, 4 dice physical, obviously wanting it to turn into a lot of crits. He had 1 and a couple of other successes, but Pyro blocked most of it and only took 1 damage. So regardless of what Blob does now, that is going to be game. He's probably just going to quickly go convert that bomb. And by bomb I mean trap. Yeah, somewhat unnecessary, but Blob went over there and has managed to turn that trap token to the Brotherhood, and that is going to take us to the end of the round and indeed the game. So at the end of round 4, the Winter Guard have one of the books on... Who was it that had the book for them? It was Crimson Dynamo. I forgot to pick that one back up. And they held 2 of the trap tokens, finishing their game on 10. The Brotherhood had the other books. They have 2 of the trap tokens, which took them beyond the 16 required to win to 17. So that was a bit of a rough one this time for the Winter Guard, kind of getting bullied by the Brotherhood. Pyro did really well. It's really easy for him to just start burning everybody. He didn't even need to use his Pyrotechnics card, although that would have been rough against the Winter Guard because it mostly involves shoving them away from things. Blob is great. Like, he is a fantastic addition to the Brotherhood. He seems really, really good. The Winter Guard, you know, they're very basic and they rely a lot on dice luck, and it just wasn't there this time, which is a shame. Colossus didn't really add anything. Oh, well, actually, no, that's not true. He dumpstered Sabretooth twice with 1 attack. So, actually, you know what? Without him, if there was someone else there, I'm not sure they would have done what he did. So, maybe he did better than it seems. Certainly better than he usually does. But, either way, Brotherhood victory today, 17 to 10. Thank you very much for watching. I sincerely hope you have enjoyed. Hopefully, in the near future, we'll be seeing some Asgardian reinforcements on the table. It was my birthday a week ago, and I got gifted the whatever the rock troll's name is, I'm blanking on it, in Better Ray Bill. I got their box, so hopefully get them assembled and painted, and we'll be able to see them in action. They're very fun looking. But that is going to do it. If you want to show your support, a like and a comment go a long way, or if you want to go above and beyond to support the channel, please consider becoming a channel member or pressing the thanks button on a video you enjoyed. It helps out, it's all reinvested, and helps keep this possible. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Ta for now.